Lara Love, welcome to your future self. It is such an honor to have you on and to have this conversation with you. I have wanted to have this conversation for a couple of years because I feel like your entire story is about a journey home to yourself. And it's the journey that we all would be lucky to take. It's a hard journey, and your story highlights that so beautifully. There's a lot of pain. There's, I think, every human emotion under the sun in your story, and I think it's a gift to the world. So I'm so excited to dive in with you. But before
Thank you.
Lara,
Thank you.
before mother, before addict, before jail, there was a younger version of you, a little Lara, that had hopes and dreams and wishes and ideas and questions. Can you paint a picture of what little Lara was like and maybe your environment?
Yeah. First of all, I love the name of your podcast, Your Future Self. That's a great podcast name. It's interesting because I get asked, I did my whole childhood in the book in like 3 paragraphs.
You did.
I did. And, people had a lot of feelings about that, and I will tell you there's been talk of a prequel to the book. And I had a dream the other day. I'll answer your question, but I had a dream the other day. Tell me. It was like a 3-box Mama Love set, and it was like a prequel. Mama Love was in the middle, and then I was like an old lady, and I'd written a sequel, like from, not that I'm not an old lady now, but I was an older old lady. And I was like, And so I made all these notes, and I was like, I could do that, but I'm not going to do that now. But I was thinking about it. Simon Schuster had asked me would I write a sequel, and I was like, no, but I'll do a bonus chapter, which came out in 2025 in the paperback. I don't know if you got to see that, which goes up to like last year.
Wow, no, I haven't.
So that's in the paperback version that came out in 2025. There is a bonus chapter. So if you have the audio or the Kindle, you could just re-download it. You'll get it for free.
Okay, so, amazing.
Just FYI.
Amazing. Yeah. No, this is what I have. I have your hard.
Yeah, the hardback does not have it. So it goes on, because, memoirs end and then life keeps lifing. So,
yes.
There's a couple of reasons why I did my childhood in that way. One, because I knew that people would want a formula, right? Like, oh my gosh, give me the formula that's going to make me an addict. Give me a formula that's going to make, traumatic childhood plus this equals that. And it just doesn't work that way. Plenty of people had traumatic childhoods and, didn't steal their neighbor's mail, whatever. Like, I didn't want to give that formula for both cause, effect, or recovery. Like, there is no formula. Yeah. Everyone's story. And also I was someone who, one, I didn't remember a lot of my childhood for a long time. I had just blocked it out. Two, it wasn't I still had that, in my childhood, there was no language for emotion. There was not once do I remember someone saying, how was your day? Or how are you feeling about that? Like, it just wasn't part of it. Like, when I think of my childhood, I think of being alone and confused and scared, terrified, really. It was a chaotic environment. There was a lot of addiction and alcoholism in my family and my siblings, in the adults around me. And my escape from all of that was just reading books. Like, when I think about my childhood, it's me kind of hiding in a closet, knees up, just reading, right? And the first line of my book is reading was my first addiction, but really it was escape. And the world the adults in my life did not make sense to me. Yeah. I couldn't understand a clear plot motivation for why they did what they did. Books
made
had
sense.
A clear plot,
They made sense.
There was a very neat arc to the story. My life did not, my childhood did not feel like a neat arc. So I was, I loved being at school. I threw myself into school. I threw myself into other people's families so I could have a family dinner at their house and have go on vacation with their family. I learned very good to pretend like everything was fine when it wasn't. And not tell any secrets. about what was going on at home and not admit that I was terrified and pretend like I had it all together and also be who other people needed me to be so they would feed me dinner or take me on vacation, or I could pretend, it's funny because I was thinking about this the other day because of that dream I had. And I remember as a kid, I was convinced that my mother was an imposter. And so I would try to catch her. I thought she was like, the world had placed her in there to play, like to pretend. And this is, would probably be great for a therapist, but because I've actually never told this story, but I would go, oh, Mom, so remember that time I broke my arm? Like, I've never broken my arm, but I would try to catch her to prove that she was like an alien imposter.
That's wild.
Isn't that crazy?
That's crazy.
Like, infer what you want from my childhood from that, So it is really like, I was convinced, it was very Truman Show-like before that show existed. I don't know if you've seen that movie. But where, like, wait, is this all pretend around me? Like, there can't, like, I had, it was a lot of that. And it was a lot of me being convinced that everybody else in the world had a normal family.
Yeah, I had the same experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's the best image of childhood in my mind. And I still like to do this because I've been walking. Hawaii is a great place to walk at night. It's safe and it's just beautiful here. But I remember as a kid, just like, it's like at dusk when it's just getting dark out and you're driving through a neighborhood or walking or riding your bicycle and you can people still have their curtains open and you're just kind of from a distance looking in and like, oh, there's a family sitting down at the table. Look at those people. They look happy. What are they doing? Like that's sort of the image I always have of like always being outside and looking in at people like, oh, look, they're happy. How do you do that?
I feel like you alluded to this a little bit, but did your younger self ever feel or sense things more than what your environment was showing you? So I feel like you were trying to catch your mom, but I'll call it intuition. Yeah. But did you feel intuitively like there's something really fucking wrong here? Yeah.
I mean, not just intuitively, like there was real practical things that they were wrong. Yeah. But intuitively though, I felt that there is, these are great questions I've never actually, sometimes I feel like I'm just giving the same answers in interview, I know. People have read my book and this, I think intuitive, like I felt that there was more for me, for the world, for the way people should be.
100%. I always kind of looked like an outsider. I was just observing my own life and I was like, there has to be more. It can't be all of this pain and suffering and fights about money and lack. And I think that's kind of what has always driven me and kind of kept me afloat, even through the pain and through the heartbreak and through, you're supposed to have these people around you, in theory, that are supposed to take care of you, show you love, and it's the complete opposite of that. So
and that's confusing.
It is. And then
to put it mildly. I mean, and I was also from a young age very delusional in my thinking and my dreaming, right? Which in a good way.
Tell me more.
Love delusional.
Yeah, tell me more.
Delusional thinking. I was like, I remember when I was little and I would be like, well, I want to be an actress and an astronaut and a writer and a lawyer. And I was like, oh, I know, I can be an actress who plays a lawyer who goes into space and then writes a book. Like I just had all of these things, but there was always very grandiose thinking for my situation, right? And I still do that. Like I have a lot of delusional plans for my life still, of things I want to try, things I'm going to do. Oh, I'm going to do that. And people are like, what? That's just crazy. Like my children now are like, what are you doing, Mom? Like, what's happening now? And I'm like, yeah, this is my thing, So I love it. Delusional thinking got me through childhood. My imagination, it got me through jail. My imagination, it's certainly gotten me through the last few years. And I'm a big fan of it. Highly recommend.
Highly recommend. And I feel like
highly recommend.
And I feel like in that way, you I'll use the word lucky, because that part of you didn't shut down. I think when your nervous system is constantly on overdrive and you're trying to be somebody for your parents and make sure you're getting fed and trying to, be the person on the outside and not share any of your stories when you're going to your friend's house, you can quickly lose that dreamy imagination, even if you don't have a traumatic childhood. I think just in our everyday with scrolling and with all of the things that are coming at us, it's really, really easy to lose that dreaming for your life. And listen, if you can think it, you can create it, and you can do it.
Yeah.
Which I love.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a very overactive imagination, for good or bad, right?
It's amazing. And you get downloads in your dreams. So we'll get to that eventually, but you get downloads in your dreams. And I feel like, Lara, without giving it all away, it's just like the universe, at least from my perspective, looking in on your life and into your words, you have been guided and you have been spoken to in ways that is so divine. And I think a lot of people miss it. And maybe I don't know, you can answer this, but maybe you missed it earlier on in life, but I imagine maybe where you sit now, you can see how all of the dots have connected. That's why it was such a spiritual experience for me, reading the book. And I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Okay, so little Lara, dreamer, trying to fit into boxes, keep family secrets. As you get a little older, young adult, college life, are you still the same dreamer? What are you like then?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I started working, and when I was 14, I lied about my age. And, my thing I loved was school. Like, I just wanted to be at school. I got great grades. I could be like, whoever I wanted to be at school. So, and I remember in high school, like, I will say, I'm never going to be like my family. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know what's wrong with them, but I will never be like them, and so really for a good part of my life, like high school, I applied to colleges. I went as far away as possible. I grew up in Massachusetts. I went 3,000 miles away to California for college. Mm-hmm. And so I went to college, and then I could reinvent myself there. Suddenly I was a hippie. Mm-hmm. And I had like my tapestries and my tie-dye.
Love.
I was a hippie in the late 80s. And then, I went to school, and then I was like, okay, what else? There, like, people are telling me I'm good. I'm getting good grades. And then I went straight from school to graduate school. Like, I was just running, mm-hmm. right? Like, I was trying to outrun myself. Mm-hmm. And I did that, high school, college, graduate school, stayed in California, for writing, graduate school for writing. Then I got pregnant, and then I had 3 boys in 4.5 years. Like, it was just like this mm-hmm. constant, like, I'm going to, instead of I'm going to be me, it was my whole driving thing was I'm not going to be
them
or my mom, mm-hmm. And my mom, mm-hmm. now I have the wisdom to know my mom was doing the best she could do under her circumstances and mm-hmm. how similar we actually became. But it was like, I was just trying to perform the role of what I thought a person named Lara should be mm-hmm. without really being me. And so it was just like, run. Now I'm going to have the perfect family that I didn't have. Now I'm going to have the perfect marriage that I didn't have. And then when that fell apart, I fell apart, mm-hmm. honestly.
Were you consciously aware that you were running, or did you have to hit? Yeah.
No, it is so easy to connect the dots in the rearview mirror.
Hindsight's 20/20, yeah.
Yeah, it's like amazing. That's easy.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't. I just thought that was me, right? Like, I'm just, I'm going to be the perfect mom. Mm-hmm. Ooh, boy, that is a rough goal to have, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. For anyone. And I'm going to have the perfect marriage, also a rough goal. I'm going to have this life that I imagined everybody else had when I was growing up, mm-hmm. and all those, living room windows. I was really like, I'm going to have this for me. I'm going to have this for my children. Not even really stopping to see, like, is this actually what I want?
Yeah.
And is this actually like the person that I could do that with, and how you get mm-hmm. to that place, that imaginary place. So yeah, so I was just hustling, and I had, I went to get my MFA in creative writing. It was a program they took 6 people a year.
Wow.
Right. At UC Irvine. Back then, the top writing programs, this is like early 90s, were the Iowa, which is still amazing, and UC Irvine was amazing at the time. It was like one of the top ones, and I remember my advisor in college, Paige Stegner, who's a great goes for great writing, environmental writing family, and he said, if you go to Iowa, you're going to become an alcoholic. And I was like, well, I don't want to do that.
Absolutely not.
Everyone just gets drunk. I was like, I'm never going to be an alcoholic or anything like that. That's what I'm running from, and I was like, okay, Irvine. And he was like, okay, at Irvine, they don't want you straight out of college. Like, you're 22 years old. You need to live a little before you can go to this elite writing program. And so he wrote a letter. I was like, well, I'm going straight to an elite writing program. And he goes, okay, well, so he wrote me a recommendation letter saying that, I was wiser than my years and I was ready. And so I went to this program with 6 people. The next person closest to my age was 12 years older than me in my program. So there was like a dozen years difference. I should not have gone at that time, right? Like, it was just, I was not wiser for my years at all. But I went to the graduate program, and it was time to write. I wrote a whole book of short stories that I've actually never published. I was just talking about this. I was like, I should look at those. They're 22-year-old Lara stories, which are really interesting.
Let's resurface.
To the world, so I did that, and then I got pregnant between my first and second year of graduate school with someone I had basically known for 2 weeks, right? And of course, we were madly in love in 2 weeks, and I think we spent a maximum of 2 weeks. I was like, well, I'm going to have a baby. And I, looking at that thing, like to talk about sort of like downloads in your dreams, my oldest son, Dylan, the night he was conceived, I had a dream, it was a drunken night, I will say that. My boys have a sense of humor. They're like, Mom, were the whole 90s just tequila and a baby for you? And I was like, well, kind of.
Very concise, boys. You summed that up beautifully.
I've always had impulse control problems, but the night that he was conceived, I had a dream, and it was a 2-year-old little boy with these white ringlets, and he was holding my hand, and it was like, I was so in love with this child. And when I found out I was pregnant, I was like, oh, I'm having a boy, and that's him. And so there was no question. I was like, yeah, I'm having a baby. I have my whole second year of graduate school. I'm, making money as a teacher. It's fine. It'll be fine. And so it was a decision that I made, and all of my boys, I have 4 boys, look exactly identical to that 2-year-old thing at 2 years old, white blonde ringlets. Like, that is the picture. Yeah. Like, I could show you a real picture that is exactly the picture I dreamed at that time. So, and part of me, I was scared. Like, I think I got scared too, because I was getting a lot of attention for my writing up to my first year of graduate school. Like, my dreams were starting to come true, right? Like visiting professors and writers were like, this is great. We'd do readings, and I got a lot of attention and praise for it. And like, oh, you could go do a writer residency in Ohio and do all these things were happening that I wanted to happen, and it scared the hell out of me. So I think part of it was like, I got scared of being good at writing, of like having my dreams actually come true.
And it was sounds like the first time that you were truly being seen.
Yeah, and so I was like, well, better have a baby.
Let's go, Dylan.
Let's go. Let's do this.
Wait, you just said so much beautiful. Okay,
super interesting. I've never told these stories before. It's really interesting. Because they're not in the book. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. And I kind of believed that this would happen. But okay, for anybody who's listening, that is like, I have absolutely been running from myself, and I wanted to be the perfect mother. I wanted to be the perfect wife. I wanted to be this career-driven, badass woman. But I'm at a point where I'm like, where am I? Like, how did I get here? Without going to jail and becoming a heroin addict, what would you say to this person?
Slacker. Sorry.
who feels stuck? Like I don't know where to go from here. Maybe that's a really big question.
It's really scary to tell the truth, right? And not mean like tell the truth like I committed a crime kind of truth, but just tell the truth like I'm unhappy
to yourself.
Yeah. Isn't that a rat or out loud to other people who are depending on you being happy, right? Like it's a radical act. And, this is kind of like what the novel I'm working on thematically. So I'm going to say it a little bit out loud right now and see if it works. But I haven't, that book doesn't exist yet. So I haven't but it is like, we think like, oh, it's the brave, it's so brave to say the thing, the true thing out loud. Right? Mm-hmm. Like we all have that in our, like I found my voice and I said the brave thing out loud. I don't think that's the brave part. The brave part is giving up the protection and security of whatever that untruth was, like not telling the truth was a form of protection for yourself, right? Mm-hmm. Like if I tell the truth, I'm going to blow up my life. Mm-hmm. Highly recommend blowing up your life. Mm-hmm. Right? There's healthy ways to do it and unhealthy ways. Mm-hmm. I used to say like I imploded my life every 7 years and not in a good way, like going to jail. Yeah. Like going to, and then there's imploding your life in a really positive way, which is just all about, I'm going to be honest and it's gonna, can I swear on your podcast or no?
1,000%.
Okay. I'm going to be honest and it's going to fuck everything up. Mm-hmm. It's going to make a lot of people unhappy. Mm-hmm. It's going to disappoint people. It's going to scare people. It's going to scare me, but it's not going to disappoint me, right? Like there is, I have a visceral understanding of what freedom means and what lack of freedom means. Mm-hmm. And there is so much freedom. And it's like, I just had to do this, you read the bonus chapter, you'll see like that is kind of what that happened last year. Like I imploded my life yet again post Oprah.
No. What?
I imploded my life. I now am divorced for a third time. I live in Hawaii.
Are you full-time in Hawaii?
House. What?
Are you full-time in Hawaii now?
I moved to Hawaii a year ago. Okay. When I was 21 years old, I said someday I will live in Kona, Hawaii. And I imploded my life.
I have chills. I don't know why
I imploded my life. I will say 2024 came in super hot. That's how my bonus chapter starts. And it was this thing where I was like, oh, I'm juggling all of these things and I'm caring for all of these people and I'm holding it together. You know what? I just wrote a book about my happily ever after love story, 3rd time's the charm of marriage. What if that's not true? Mm-hmm. I just wrote a book and I talked about how I moved into this beautiful house and it's forever and no one can ever take from me. What if that's not true? So it was a real start over. I moved to Hawaii by myself. And it was like, let's see if I make friends. Let's see how but I've known that my base level of joy, my base level of happiness has always been higher in this particular specific place in the world. Yeah. And so I was like, 21, someday I'm going to live here. I found out I was pregnant with Dylan here, like a mile from where I'm living right now. Yeah. Because I'd come here the summer between years at graduate school to study for my master's exam and write. And I was like, someday I'm actually going to live here. I promised myself.
That's wild.
Did I know it takes 3+ decades? No. Yeah. But here I am, and I'm like, okay. And my children wait, we just moved back to Santa Cruz to be near you and you just left. Oh, it's really hard to choose yourself.
It is. And it's really hard to get honest with yourself. And I feel like a lot of your story was bringing you back to you. And a lot of your story was saying, hey, go towards truth. Enough with the lies, go towards truth. How does truth come up for you? So you're in this marriage. And do you say it quietly to yourself? Is it a feeling that you get? Is it
which marriage are we talking about?
Okay, let's do the last one. Let's do the last one.
I'm like the Elizabeth Taylor of the literary
your
world.
last.
I was like, how did that happen?
The last imploding? Like, what starts to come up for you?
The thing is, like, when you tell the truth, which I did in my book, anything that is held up by untruth falls.
Yep.
Right? Mm-hmm. And to me, I was really comfortable with pretending my whole life. Mm-hmm. And then when I wrote this book and this book came out and I'm out in the world talking to people, I was like, wait, am I being a little hypocritical? So it was like my husband and I, my last husband, were leading very disconnected lives, very separate lives. And of course I'm also traveling and, mm-hmm. I'm leading a very big life and we're not communicating, we're not talking. And I was very lonely, I could chart the levels of loneliness in my life and marked by loneliness. And at the same time, I say I'm someone who likes to be alone, which mm-hmm. might actually not be true. I've said that to myself my whole life. I don't know mm-hmm. if that's true or not. I'm still deciding, but being alone and being lonely are different things. There is no form, in my opinion, there is no worse loneliness than being lonely with someone else. Mm-hmm. Right? Like mm-hmm. that's a like next, hell has levels, loneliness has levels. And that to me is the worst one. That is the depths of it. When you're lonely in a relationship, mm-hmm. when you're lonely and you're in a marriage, when you're lonely and you're right next to someone, like that is mm-hmm. not good. So I was trying to like, hey, can we figure this out? Can we talk? My husband I was trying to have those conversations, and I'm the first to say that like emotionally unavailable used to be super sexy to me. Yeah. Like, that's my kind of guy, right? But as I changed and evolved over 13 years and my partner did not, like suddenly there was a mismatch there. Yeah. And so I didn't make the decision to end it. He actually, by me trying to talk to him about it, went out and found someone else. And so that was shocking. And that was like, oh, mm-hmm. oh, wait, okay. But I didn't, so I was more mad at the messiness of the process than I wasn't heartbroken. Mm-hmm. I wasn't like, younger Lara would go full FBI mode. If someone cheated. Like I've had infidelity in my marriages before, and it was always like, what's wrong with me? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What, am I not pretty enough? Mm-hmm. Am I not good at what does she have that I like? Well, this wasn't about this woman at all. Yeah. I didn't even need to know who this was. This mm-hmm. was about I had this sort of like, we're going to consciously, uncouple. And he was like, I need to unconsciously couple to get over there. I'm out. Two different worldviews. Yeah. And so it was like, I was mad at the messiness. I was mm-hmm. mad at the like disrespect. I was like angry. Mm-hmm. It was good. And did I was like, oh. Did you send love? Did you send love and light? I sent him packing, and then I sent love and light. I am not the Dalai Lama, but, yeah, I'm just gonna be honest. But yeah, I do send love and light now. But, yeah. No, sometimes you need some righteous rage first. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Okay, so telling the truth. I truly believe it's the one thing that sets you free, but there's a lot of stuff that comes with telling the truth. And you lose people, you lose your own identity and at times, but like you said, I feel like the one thing that you don't lose is yourself in the process, because you can actually tell yourself, I've got you. I'm listening. I understand you're feeling all of these feelings and you're being truthful to that. And that's really what matters to me, at least, ultimately. Yeah. Do you have you at the end of the day? And that, and you just described it so beautifully, but it is not a pretty process. It's like, it's a messy process. It's a horribly messy process. And we're not used to going into the unknown. We are taught to follow this timeline. We're taught to follow the shoulds. I should have this. I should have that. And we often bypass all of the things that we're feeling inside. And we have this internal guidance system, which we ignore. And we get to a point where
our life implodes and we're like, how did we even get here? And it's like, well, the whole hindsight's 2020 thing.
Right.
Okay. We are so over here, so I'm going to try to bring us, but I love it. I absolutely love it. All right, DJ, I've got to go back to this point in your life because I feel like so you become a mother and it was everything that you dreamed of, everything that you wanted, but you said that and I'm paraphrasing, but you didn't have the tools to create the family that you wanted. You didn't want to be like your mother. You wanted this dream family, but then you have your first baby. You're with a guy that you met not too long ago. And can you tell me the story about when you're at his family's house? And I think this is where you take the Percocet in the bathroom.
Yeah. So this wasn't DJ.
No, it wasn't. It was your first.
Yeah, it was my first husband, the father of my first three boys, my first litter of children. Yeah, I mean, I really, I was pregnant. I went back to graduate school. I'm teaching creative writing at UC Irvine as my stomach's getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And we weren't living together. He was in college up in Santa Cruz and he came down near the time of the birth and I it was a crazy pregnancy, but we are, I really was like, this is it. I'm going to have my dream family. Mm-hmm. Like we're going to be the perfect family. When you're trying to be the perfect anything, like you're going to be disappointed.
100%.
It just doesn't exist. It doesn't. Right.
Yeah.
And so we were, he had a big family in Central California, and we were, my son was a few months old, 2 months old, 1 month old, I don't remember. I gotta read my own book, but we were moving from Southern California to Northern California, and we went there, and I was, meeting them and meeting the baby, and they were like concerned, like, who is this woman? And you're not married, and you barely know each other. She's had your baby, and and I get it. It was like generations of men, and they were concerned, and I, felt like the outsider, and I felt like scared, and I was, I was kind of an introvert. I was postpartum. I was like, just wanted to be welcomed into this family, and I didn't feel that. Mm-hmm. And, I went in the bathroom and who would be my children's great grandfather, there was Percocet on there. And I remember taking one, and I was like, oh, suddenly I was, warmer, kinder, like smarter, funnier, more engaged. They liked, it was just like the way pain medication reacted in my brain. Mm-hmm. It didn't make me sleepy and disconnect. It made me, I felt, connect better. Mm-hmm. Right? I used to be someone where if you were taught, like I could talk to a group, but if I'm talking to someone one-on-one, like you and I now, that would be terrifying to
really?
Me. And wait, you're going to look in my eyes? Mm-hmm. What the fuck? Mm-hmm. It was like that. It was so, my existence was very fear-based. And so the, opiate, like the way that my brain chemistry is, when I took a pain pill, it didn't numb me out. It actually made me like, I can look in your eye and I'm so connected to you now. Mm-hmm. Like it was false, but that's what it, it gave me, I'm lucky to call Gabor Mate a friend. Love. And the first time we were having breakfast, I'm just name dropping in Costa Rica. We were, whatever.
Fuck all of you.
My favorite people.
He's amazing. Yeah.
But we were having breakfast, and he was like, tell me what you got when you what you felt when you took drugs. Like, what did it give you? And I was like, oh, it made me feel connected, made me feel love. It made me feel like not on the outside looking in at humanity. And that he was like, that's why you took it. Like, it was like really this, like, so how do you not do drugs? You get that somewhere else. Mm-hmm. Right? Like now if things go bad or I feel disconnected, not once do I think, oh, maybe a Vicodin would help me. Yeah. And I have connection. I have like love. I have friends. I have like that thing that I thought the drugs gave me. And it's very insidious because the pain medication I think it's giving me that, but what it was doing was slowly taking away my ability to feel any kind of joy without it. Like I used to say, it gave me joy for no good reason. Like I love joy for no good reason. When you wake up, you're just like, oh,
yeah, like, let's do it.
Well, it's a hard day, and there's all these bad things happening, but I feel joy for I love joy for no reason. Yeah, right. That little jolt, and so it gave me that, but it's really insidious because it took away my ability to feel joy without it. Right. So, I remember, so just go back to that story. So I took that and that was whatever. And then I wasn't like, it wasn't like I was completely addicted from that point on. It was just like in my toolbox. Like I know that feeling. And it was really until, I had 3 boys in 4.5 years. And it's funny because I interviewed another author who wrote a book called Motherhood, Sarah Hoover. And it is the only thing with all this time, all this rearview mirror, where it almost made me rethink my own villain origin story.
Interesting. Right? Tell me more.
I was like, because her book I was reading her book. I was going to interview her and ask the questions on a stage at a book festival. And it's a great book, by the way. And she's a fabulous human. Her book starts out with her doing drugs in a hotel room with her young child. Very similar to mine. Zero shame around it, however. And her book is about postpartum depression and how she suffered from this so bad that she was medicating herself and she was doing this stuff. And I was like, wait, hold on. I had 3 boys in 4.5 years, and then I started taking pain. I knew I was depressed because my marriage was ending. There was infidelity, and my happily ever after that I imagined was falling apart. And I was depressed, and I never would have told anyone that or asked for help. That wasn't in my vocabulary. But I was like, wait, no one talked about postpartum depression. Did I have that? No. Was that a thing? It made me question everything. Every story I told about, why was I someone so weak that I turned to drugs? All of that stuff. Because she had zero shame. She was like, fuck the world. I have postpartum depression and it's making me do this. And I was like, okay. It was a really it's a great book. It's way better than that. And she's got incredible fashion sense, which I would never have. But it was really really one of those moments where you're like, is my entire story actually different? Like, how do I know? And it doesn't matter. But, it was only when I had so much emotional pain with my husband cheating on me and the end of my happily ever after that I took a pill, not for physical pain. And before the opiate crisis was a crisis, Vicodin was handed out in sample blister packs. Try this, try this, try this. You have an earache, you have a mood, like when women were hysterical way back and they were given opium in the 1800s or whatever years it was. It was kind of like pushed so much. It was new. And it was like, this is the cure for everything. And everybody had a gazillion prescriptions of pain medication in their medicine cabinet. And I know because I used to take them from everyone, right? In the act of addiction. So, I remember taking a pill and be like, oh, I can pretend everything's okay. Yeah. I can pretend it's really fun doing all this laundry and playing army guys. I can pretend that it's not so bad that my husband is sleeping with everyone in town. Whatever, slept with my best friend or whatever,
oh no.
Which really did happen, if I read it.
Oh no!
But anyway, I'm telling you all these things that aren't even in my book. But
I love it.
So while I was in the house, mind you.
No! No! Are you fucking kidding? No!
Well, I was asleep with 3 little children in my bed in the back room. But so anyway, so I was, it helped me pretend and feel that I was medicated. I was depressed. I was miserable, right? For good reason. Yeah. And, and then it took more and I would be like, so probably for a good decade on and off, because I was still self-aware. I was like, oh, that's not who I am. Oh, I'm not going to be like I'm not an addict. Oh, I took too many pills today. I took a bunch of pills today. I need to stop. And so I would quit for a week. And I had this mantra when I quit. I would quit for a week at a time, a couple weeks at a time. And I had this mantra that would help me quit. And it was choose life, choose life, choose life, choose life, choose life. I remember actually being like, because of course you quit, then you're like, I'm going to the gym, you know, like being on a treadmill and having that mantra to keep me going. Like, so when I think of that, it's always a treadmill going, choose life, you know, like that kind of thing. And then I'd be like, well, I don't have a problem. I just quit for a week. You know, and at the end of that, the addiction to prescription pain pills, that like one pill I took to get that warm, fuzzy feeling turned into 60 a day.
Which is
I would take 20 for breakfast, 20 for lunch, 20 for dinner, which is like, you know, I know it's true because I lived it and I remember it, but it's hard to imagine now. Like that would kill me, obviously. But that is like how your tolerance builds and how like the compulsion and, you know, escalation of addiction is. So I stopped, like I had at the start of my book, when I'm arrested, I had 6 years clean and sober and I'd relapsed 11 months. It took 11 months after 6 years clean and sober to completely implode my life, go from pills to smoking heroin to getting arrested to my son taken away and losing everything. It was less than a year, losing all my money, like all of that, like the, and I didn't write about, I haven't yet told this story. I'm not going to tell it yet of like what happened with my like relapse and how that happened. I told a little bit, but not the story. Cause there's a whole story there. Maybe in the prequel, but, so it was like before I got that 6 years, I'd imploded my life and then like rebuilt my life.
Every 7 years, Lara Love, Harden, every 7 years, we're just...
The 7 years, you know, and now I imploded in good ways, right? But yeah, so it was, you know, it was a hard thing. And it was nothing like, no one as a kid is like, dear diary, I hope someday I can be an addict.
Never.
Dear diary, I hope someday I can go to jail. Dear diary, I hope someday everyone will really hate me. You know, like it's not a thing. Like there's a story, you know, every single woman I was incarcerated with had a story. There's just not in context to their decisions. But that system doesn't allow for context. No. Right? It's not a like, tell me your story, let's figure this out kind of system.
Yeah. The day that you were arrested, I imagine it was one of the most heartbreaking days of your entire life, especially with Caden. And on top of that, you have a police officer tell you that you'll never see your children again. He just like took the screw and drove it in when he could have just given you a moment of grace. And often, and I have addiction in my own family, I feel like often it's the people who are hurting the most that do pick up the drug. It's the people that are good people that maybe do bad things sometimes. They're just in pain. They're hurting. What do you... Because I feel like this is just... It's really easy to, outside of your own story, just in life in general, it's really easy to talk shit about people, to gossip, to stomp on them when they're down, or to say, like, what is she doing? What is he doing? Oh my goodness. What do you say to all of that? Like in the moment you needed grace the most, you got something completely different.
Yeah. I mean, I think what you're asking about is sort of two different sets of people. Like in that moment when that police officer said, you'll never see your children again and you shouldn't be anyone's mother. Like I believed him, right? I had, you know, some of the women I was in jail with who've been in and out of jail before and been through the system would have known, like, actually that's not true. I didn't know that, you know, because he said that to me. 2 days later, I tried to end my life because I could not imagine a life where I would never see my children again, or I wouldn't see them till I was like 40s. And I believed him. Like it took me over 11 years. Like when he said, you should not be anyone's mother. And I like dropped my head. Like it took me over 11 years to lift my head back up from that moment. Like words are powerful. So for him, it wasn't just judgment and like, you know, gossip. It was, I have power. Yeah. And I'm going to make a choice to say the worst thing I know will be because I've been crying the whole drive to the jail, like asking where my son was. And like, can you just tell me, is he okay? crying. I wasn't crying because I was getting arrested.
No.
Right? I was crying the whole way and begging this man, just tell me where my son was.
Yeah.
And because I was imagining all these horrible things happening to Kate. Like, he's going off with strangers. Like, I protect him.
Yeah.
They're taking him away to protect him from me, but I'm the one who protects him. He's never been a night away from me. Like, I need to scratch his arm for him to go to sleep. Yeah. Even now, he was just here. He's in college now. We were on Christmas Day. He was kind of falling asleep on the couch, and he lifts his arm straight up. And I was like, still the same. You know, he's like a massive muscle guy. But I was like, okay. You know, same as that little baby. So because of that, I was like, I can't live in this life. Yeah. Like, you know, so he had a chance. And I think that said more about his humanity. You know, I don't really judge a lot of people in my story, but I think that particular man, you know, he felt very powerful in that moment. Like, he is someone, and there's certain people in humanity who are like, the more I can kick someone when they're down, the more powerful I feel. You know, like, it is really very basic psychology, right? It's not hard to figure out what was going on with him, and you know, and unfortunately in the system there are a lot of personalities like that. You know, and it's not like, you don't need a lot of, like, to prove a lot of, like, evolution of your soul or therapy or education to be in that job. Yeah. Right. And there are really good people who are in that job because they have ideals around it, and it's a hard system for everyone, but it's also a very abusive system, especially for women, right? And traumatizing system. So there's that kind of thing. Like, he could have shown grace. He could have shown basic humanity. Like you know, a smidge. Yeah. Right? A smidge. Like, the fact that I was so susceptible. Like, I was, like, at my low, like, people are like, well, you know, has it been hard to be off drugs all these years? It's like, no. Like, it was, you know, whatever is below rock bottom, that's what that was. Yeah. Me, right? Like, there's no part of me 17 years later is like, it wasn't that bad. Like, I don't, you know, there's no, like, you know what? Yeah. Make my life better right now. Let's just do a little recreational drugs. Like, that's not a thing for me, right? But, and then there's, like, the gossip in the community. Like, you know, we heal in community, and if everyone is, like, ostracized you, shunned you, you know, it was very modern day Scarlet Letter. You know, like, I was, and the moment of my arrest, everything I had been for 40 years was gone. Yep. Didn't count anymore. Didn't matter that I had a master's degree. Didn't matter that I was on the school board, that I coached Little League. All of that was gone. Didn't matter that I was, like, had all these friends in my mom groups and my book clubs and all of that stuff. Everything was gone. It didn't count. Anything I had done, any kindness I'd ever shown in my life, like, all of that was erased. Everything gets erased in that moment. And so for me, the hardest thing was, you know, not one of my mom friends came to visit me or wrote me. And to be fair, if they had, I would not have responded because I was so ashamed. Right. But it was, you know, it was a whole different kind of alone. That might actually even be a worse alone than the one I described earlier on this. It was a theme. It's ever since you were young. I remember hearing a story about you getting drunk for the first time, and you had 2 rum and cokes, and you went to the hospital to get your stomach pumped. And it was as if you took all of those drugs at that time because they couldn't understand how you were so out of it. And you just said, I'm lonely. And that scared I'm so lonely. And that was your moment of truth that was so hard, that would follow you through so much of your life. And you were so scared of that. Yeah. Yeah. It's so, again, no one's ever asked me about that or commented on that, but that story, like, really was the first time I drank hard alcohol and completely black out. I also that night told everyone that, you know, my boyfriend and I had sex and I was no longer a virgin. That was the other big scandal. That also happened that night. But I was 17. And so, but I remember, like, the next night, I was out walking,
Mm-hmm.
and that was around infidelity and betrayal too, because that whole story. But the next night, I was out walking. This is in Brookline, Massachusetts, where I grew up. I was out. My son Ty keeps trying to FaceTime. I'm glad. Usually my kids can break through my do not disturb, but we're good. He's living in Amsterdam right now.
Ooh.
But I was out walking the next night with said boyfriend. Right, we were out walking, and I remember the police car comes up. We're just walking down the road. It's probably midnight, walking around town. And the police car pulls up. It was the policeman from the night before. And he rolls down the window and he goes, "I cannot believe your mother has let you out of the house tonight." Like, I had just gotten out of the hospital. Like, they had been, ambulance picked me up. The police were there because they were worried I'd taken drugs. Like, they were there because I was a minor. They were there because I wasn't in any police trouble, but they were, they had like responded to this and seen me leave the hospital. And I remember that policeman was like, "I cannot believe your mother has let you out of the house tonight." And I had no, that said everything.
Everything.
Right?
Yeah.
And I was so embarrassed, when he
absolutely.
said that. I mean, we weren't doing anything wrong. I wasn't in trouble. I wasn't in trouble from the night before.
No, but it was almost like somebody saw you in that moment and everything that you've wanted to express, but you can't express. So you feel seen, but it's this
Yeah. Yeah. I was very embarrassed for a long time in my life by my own emotions. Right. I didn't have an emotional language, and my needs and my emotional needs and having a feeling was embarrassing to me, and actually this is also a story I haven't told, but one of the things I did after my book sold before I was going to write my book is, I was like, how am I going to write this book if I'm not able to understand my own emotional, because I could be clever. I could be I can rearrange 26 letters in a way that'll razzle dazzle people, but I want to be really honest. And to do that, I have to be really honest, and I have to really understand my own self. And so I was like, I don't have time to start therapy now, so because and I have this joke, I always say, I do therapy if they don't ask you personal questions. I'd be fine with it. But so actually it was Gabor Mate who helped me, because he was the scientific advisor for Soltara in Costa Rica, which is a ayahuasca retreat place. And so I was like, I got to go do ayahuasca before I write this book. The book had sold, and I was like, I have to go on an ayahuasca thing. And then I was freaking out about it. And Gabor's like, "Lara, do you want to get on Zoom? And I'll you tell me all the things you're freaking out about." So we got on Zoom, and he was like, and I trusted that place. And he was like, "Well, what are you scared of?" And I was like, "I'm scared I'm going to die." He's like, "You're not going to die." He goes, "What are you scared of?" "I'm scared I'm going to freak out and run into the woods and die." He's like, "Okay, we have people there to keep you safe. There's facilitators. You're not going to die." I was like, "I'm scared I'm doing drugs." He's like, "This is not drugs. It's medicine. You need to think of it that way." And so I went to Costa Rica with, 21 perfect strangers, right? And lied on the mat. And I remember doing, it was 4 ayahuasca journeys in the week, and also my least favorite thing is vomiting. So I know.
I think it's the purging.
And, but I remember lying on the mat, and you do the ayahuasca, and you're kind of with these shamans, and I saw some Harry Potter level magic, not on ayahuasca on that trip, but I remember the first time.
I want to know all of it.
I know. I've never, it's not written about, it's not in the book, it happened. But I remember lying on the mat, and the ayahuasca, it's about 45 minutes or an hour. You're just lying in total silence. And then the shamans start doing the song, and the ayahuasca start, it's like pulling the ayahuasca through their song. And I remember all of a sudden, it hit my body, and I'm like, I feel like I'm slammed. And I was like, my first thought was what am I doing? I just fooling myself to getting high with strangers in Costa Rica. This is not medicine. I was just having that feeling of this, what felt like a heavy drug course through your body. It didn't feel like medicine in that moment when I was like, what am I, have I just tricked myself? Is this, even though Gabor had been it's medicine, it's like anything, and he was right. It was really good, but it really helped me remember things from my childhood, see patterns, really get the language for the fact that oh, I'm embarrassed by my feelings,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like I didn't have that sentence in my head.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't understand that. It was just like, oh, I'm just, you know. So it really was like a profound way to also implode your life in a good way. I'll tell that, or maybe I'll write it all out, that whole story. It was a crazy, you know, each of the four things like was telling a story, and it wasn't always a good story. You know, it's actually this little, I don't know if you can see this little tapestry here. It's by the shamans in the village of Peru. And so I have it here as a, talk about there's one funny story where like you're having these, like, you're meeting all these people and you're sharing after, you know people's traumas because they're on a mat next to you before you know their last name. Mm-hmm. So you get really close. I listed everybody's name in my acknowledgments because really like these people, these 21 strangers, like you get to know them over this week in incredible ways. But there was one time everyone was talking about, you know, like, well, what was your journey like tonight? What happened in this part? You know, we're all meeting kind of after as a group and just talking about it. And people are having these like epiphanies and traumas and like things. And then one night they were like, well, Lara, what was it like for you? And I was like, well, the song Formation was playing, Beyonce. and I have the journal from that. And I was like, and then I was really questioning whether or not I actually was Beyonce.
And
everybody's mouth just dropped. This is before I read that, but everyone was like, what? And I was like, well, I'm just saying, I know I'm not, but I might also be Beyonce. Like,
yeah, and I'm on a stage as an astronaut, but I'm also a writer.
Yeah,
and
because I was just like, I slay. Like, I was like, okay, I do. Like,
that your confidence came out. The queen in you arrived. But the shaman. Yeah. So you spoke with a shaman, and the shaman talks about your soul contract. And often
this is a different shaman. Different shaman. Ayahuasca shaman. This is a Hawaii shaman.
A Hawaii shaman. And a soul contract is what we agree on prior to coming in, all the things that we're going to learn. And it's often through all the painful shit and the heartbreak. And she tells you that your soul contract was to be on a stage as no one.
Mm-hmm.
In hindsight, what do you make of all of that? Like, knowing what you know now, like what?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because, like, I think at the time it was really relating to ghostwriting.
Oh.
In some way, like, it was, right? Because it was like, ghostwriting is a very egoless job. Like I've recruited and trained a lot of collaborative writers to work with my authors and the authors when I was at the architects, and it's a certain personality type where you have to be egoless. You can't be like, wait, that just won an award, but I wrote that. You know, like it was like this thing. And at the time for me, I was, I was working at this literary agency, working with all these amazing people in the world, you know, meditating with the Dalai Lama and collaboratively writing with Archbishop Desmond Tutu and the Gottmans and neuroscientists and, you know, like all of these amazing people in the world. And what I was doing, because I was keeping my past the secret for so long, that I was incarcerated, that I'd been an addict, like all of these things. And so I was building this resume of goodness, right? So that when the truth comes out, because it's always going to come out, right? The truth I was worried about was that when I was sentenced, I was called the neighbor from hell, right? So I was very worried about that coming out and people Googling me. And sometimes people did, and it was bad because all that judgment and gossip. And so that was the truth train, which I knew eventually was going to come to a stop and come out. And then I was building up my, like, how to defend my humanity and my own goodness train, right? And so that was the ghost run. That was like, okay, well, yeah, people wrote these mean things about me online, but Nelson Mandela thanked me in his last book. People said this, but then Archbishop Tutu said I have a heart of gold. Like, it was like I was getting ready when those two trains crashed and I could defend my humanity. I don't worry about defending my humanity or my goodness. I don't feel the need to. I don't think about it. But I was very, like, for a decade doing that post-incarceration. And so to me, when she said, you made this thing to be on a stage as no one, because these books were New York Times bestsellers. They were winning awards. They were, like, changing people's lives, like millions of people. And I was like, oh, I'm just, you know, if I put out the list of books, people could see the Lara in it. They could see my Lara-isms as Desmond Tutu, as a neuroscientist, as this or that. But it was really, you know, where I was like pondering, doing a book, pondering, telling the truth to the people I care about. And that trip, I was with an author who's a really good friend of mine, former Secret Service agent. We were working on her book proposal, and I told her that night my past. Evie Pompera, she's amazing, and she's a former Secret Service agent.
I know, that was fucking horrifying. Yeah,
it was the scariest thing I've ever had to do, and she, you know, so it was really like, okay, I've agreed to be the background singer on the stage, but what if I'm done doing that?
Yeah.
What if I'm ready to be me? You know, like it was something along that I was like, okay, I'm done with that. You know, I was a kingmaker. You know, there's this movie where the woman is secretly writing and she was like, I'm a kingmaker. Like that's what I do. Or I was a queen maker. You know, like I was spending all of my days really working really, really hard 24/7 to build other people's visions and dreams. And so it was like, what if I try to do that for me?
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. I heard Hoda Kotb say this recently. Don't hog your journey. It's not just meant for you. So thank you for not hogging your journey. It was absolutely fucking time for you to step into your own spotlight. And I know that
this is reminding me I've got more stories to come.
And I know. I will help you pull them all out of you. The Many Lives of Mama Love. It is a gift and an offering to the world for anyone who reads it. So thank you.